Hey family, it's Tasha Mama Prepping. You already know what time it is. Get your drink, pull up, let's talk about it. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel where we just talk about emergency preparedness, and we're going to get into it right away. So today we are going to talk about Marburg. So Marburg, MVD, Marburg virus disease. And though I've mentioned this before, I've talked about this before, I've talked about different viruses on my channel before, I've talked about smallpox, I've talked about different things, okay, Ebola, and Marburg is one of those things. It's one of those things that Mr. BG has talked about in the past that would be a concern to us as the American people, that we will be attacked, if you will, that we will have to fight off and go through a bout with Marburg. He's brought this up before. He's also brought up several other viruses like smallpox and brought it up and said, hey, we're going to have to deal with this. And so, you know, it's just like fiction. It's just like movies. They're always trying to tell us and give us, provoke us with saying, hey, these things could happen in the way of, you know, entertainment. But it's funny how those things always come true. And so anytime, can't stand the man, but anytime BG in the past has discussed, hey, you're going to have to worry about this. And mind you, this is a man who has financial capital in, you know, big pharma and in these companies that, you know, are actually trying to find vaccines and making medicines and all of that stuff, right? And actually owns labs and laboratories in different places that hold these actual live viruses, some of these live viruses. Now, Marburg. Family of Ebola, you know, I want to just make sure that I do this video specifically on Marburg because we talked about this a few weeks ago, kind of in passing in different videos. Hey, get ready. There's different things happening in the world. Marburg is a thing. It's happening. I had not reported, but talked about how it had broke out in a country in Africa, how it had been there recently, just months prior to that. But they had kind of buttoned that up, and that was kind of that episode or that outbreak was over, and that this new one that happened in February here was happening, right? And what's really nasty about these diseases is that once you get it, it's a very, very high probability of death, right? Like 50 to 88 or 50 to 90%. It's not a good thing if you get it. The bad thing about this is that it is a virus that has a very long incubation period. So you might come in contact with somebody, get it, and you may not see symptoms. You could see symptoms up to 2 days, but ideally you're closer to the 21-day incubation. And so for 21 days, you know, you can possibly not see symptoms, not feel any type of way, but in that period of 3 weeks, you're totally, giving it to other people, basically. Okay. Now, I'm already hearing reports of folks, people doing videos and news reports and folks saying, hey, it's not that big of a deal. It's not airborne. Don't worry about it. It's not airborne. We're not going to have to, it's not going to be crazy like COVID. It's not going to, and we went back and forth of whether COVID was airborne or not, droplets or not, and masks. We went through this whole thing already, right? And the thing to keep in mind is this is like nothing. This is like everything else in regards to how do you protect yourself in everyday stuff? You wash your hands, you stay clean, you keep your distance away from people, right? Although it's not airborne, you get this from bodily fluids. A lot of times healthcare workers, people who are working with individuals that need help, dealing with bodily fluids in a hospital, dealing with vomit, urine, dealing with that stuff on a regular basis puts them at a higher risk of being, of engaging and getting that stuff, right? But anybody can get this, okay? International travel makes any virus just crazy, okay? International traveling is huge now. You have folks who travel every single day. Their job is to go to different countries. This is not just doctors, doctors across borders type of thing, right? Nurse corps and stuff that go out to these different countries, and those are the people that you have to worry about, right? This is everybody. This can be tracked easily. And the fact now that it was a big deal, right? CDC, everybody had a huge meeting as soon as that outbreak happened in February. They employed a bunch of people, and they're like, we're going to nip this in the butt. And you really just didn't hear anything past the original kind of death toll and the people that were sick. And of course, they quarantined a bunch of people. And now in Africa, just, a few countries away, actually not a few, several countries away, which makes that crazy, is that there's another outbreak, okay, in Tanzania, right? And so there is another outbreak just a little ways away, and they're trying to get that unwrapped. Again, we talked about this in passing in one of my videos just a week or so ago when this happened. And so it's a big deal. You have 2 countries now that are battling this. We're not talking about huge numbers, but it's a big deal even with its little numbers because it's so deadly. It's such a deadly virus, right? If you think COVID, oh, people are dying, whole families are dying. Devastation. It was devastating because COVID was kind of weird where the numbers for death was very, very low, like under 1%, okay? And for a lot of people, they're like, who cares? That's like a drop in the bucket. That's nothing. And I say that, with a softness, okay? Because I understand it hurts. And people lost whole families, whole dynamics, several generations, people were losing, right? Or there was people who in their circle of life lost a family member, lost a friend, lost a family acquaintance, lost several people in their view of the world, right? And that's devastation because to you, your view, that's out of control. Everybody's dying, right? And it's not cool. Now take that and times it by, 80%. Like it's crazy, okay? If this thing comes over here, this is crazy. And I'm telling you this because a lot of folks would say, do not worry about this. And I'm telling you, don't lose sleep over it. Absolutely not. But I'm telling you that these are the examples. This is an example of stuff you have to get ready for. You have to get your PPE together. You've got to get your get your suits. Get some plastic, stuff that you could cover up yourself if you had to take care of somebody, right? Get your gloves, get some plastic in case you had to kind of keep somebody in a quarantine area. Get the stuff to treat the symptoms. Let's talk about symptoms. This kind of starts off with your typical diarrhea. It's super watery diarrhea. So it starts off with like your diarrheas, your vomiting, your abdominal, super high fever that you can't get rid of, right? It's just persistent fever. And you do that for a few days. And then day 5 or 6 of your symptoms, you're going into the nasty stuff. Now, blood coming from your vagina, ladies, blood coming from your nose, your mouth, your gums, right? Blood coming in your stool, right? Coming in your urine. And so blood is starting to be introduced into this. There's possibly an early rash that's introduced early, not itchy like, but some sort of rash. This is not good. It's very, very ugly. And with the death rate, a lot of people are like, well, if you get it, you're going to die. So who cares about treating it? You should be ready to treat whatever it is that you can treat. You should be up on game with all your cleaning stuff, your bleach, your cleaners, your stuff for wiping down surfaces, all your laundry stuff. Another way that this could be passed is bodily fluids, and then through clothing and bedding, right, with fluids on it. So, how many people profusely sweat at night? All on the sheets, all on the bedding, right? How many just hugging each other, doing all this stuff, right? People are just like, well, I'm not spitting on somebody's clothes when I go hug them, right? But that's naive. I hate when people are like, well, it's not that big a deal. Don't worry about it. You really have to, I'm not having sex with this person. I'm not making out with this person. I'll be fine. There's folks that play sports, that play contact sports, where bodily fluids, sweat, you guys, is touching and being intermingled, and it's just not good, okay? So, you got to keep a clean house, got to keep up on that laundry, keep your clothes clean, keep the bedding, washing bedding on a regular basis, washing towels on a regular basis, washing everything and keeping things good to go, and getting your PPE and getting your medicines to treat different things, right? Getting up on your holistic game, your boosters, all of that stuff, anything that's going to help your body fight off a virus in general, you should be stockpiling, okay? There's a lot of holistic type stuff, trees and plants and stuff that are helpful, right, for fighting off different stuff in your body. You have to figure out how to do this, right? There is no vaccine for this. And to be honest, even if there was, or if they come up with one, that's bad news, okay? Because you have such a big part of the country that is not trusting of a vaccine. yes, you still have a whole group of people who will just follow suit and will just do it. But you have a lot of people that absolutely, just like before, absolutely are not going to do it, right? And then you have a group of people who did it before and absolutely are not going to do it this time because of everything that's been happening, okay? This is not good. You have warnings being sent out to airports and all this stuff. I got a message, without saying any names, I got a message. Somebody had passed on through a friend, had gotten a message, works for TSA, and had gotten a message, not an email message, but had gotten like a little flyer, just a printout on a white piece of paper about the warning of Marburg and to look out for signs and different things that are going on. And so they're being notified. They're being notified to be on the lookout. And you have other countries that are warning, don't travel, don't go to places. So 2 countries right now in Africa, this has been going on for a couple months now, since like February. So this has been going on. And a lot of people will say, well, the death rate hasn't, it hasn't gone up crazy, right? But cases are still happening. It seemed like they had kind of gotten the Guinea part kind of under wraps, but then, and it's equatorial Guinea. It's not regular Guinea. And then Tanzania, there's deaths. They had this cluster of deaths. This is the scary thing too that I saw, is that the concern is that folks are not reporting, right? Things are happening. People are sick. They're not going to the doctor. They're not trusting the doctor. They don't have a doctor. They can't afford a doctor, whatever. And people are not reporting. And so the concern is that the numbers are not accurate. The numbers are not accurate for cases. The accurates are not for, contact. And that messes up contact tracing and trying to go back to find people to quarantine. And so it's crazy. You're going to have to be concerned with the fact that do not trust the numbers. If this starts to build up and get bigger, don't trust the numbers. I didn't trust the COVID numbers from jump. I was one of those people that was from the jump. I was obsessed with numbers. I was looking at the numbers. I was watching our country. I was watching all our states' numbers. I was watching other countries' numbers. I was obsessed, okay? And I was obsessed with cases. I was obsessed with deaths. I was obsessed with all of it. And so I know now that stuff is not accurate, right? It's not truth. And so when they talk about this, it's like on one hand, they're like, well, there's not that many deaths or there's not that many cases. But on the other hand, they're freaking out. And this is all over. If you Google this right now, for several weeks nonstop, there's been articles that you can read on. Now, mind you, they all basically say the same thing, right? But this is not cool. This is something that you need to watch. You need to pay attention. You need to be paying attention about news. If you start hearing anything, this is a big deal. And you just need to be taking care of yourself. I'm not saying live like a hermit. Don't go wow. Put yourself on self-quarantine. I'm not talking to you like that. What I would say though is you need to get the things. You need to get the things to prepare. I have several videos on pandemic preps, on stuff to just getting in your house. When it comes to medical stuff and symptoms and trying to fight stuff like this, especially when it's something that's so scary, so deadly, doesn't have a vaccine, you're trying to make the person as comfortable as possible. And so you're treating the symptoms. Think of all the symptoms one by one, write them out, and then what do you get to treat that, okay? And then you get that item. You need to be thinking about this and think about travel. If you are planning to go overseas, you're planning to travel, you're trying to go to Africa and specifically, I would double think that. I don't think that I would be going, okay? If you are a family that has international travel as a regular thing in your family, you need to be a little concerned, to be cautious, right? You have a family member, maybe dad travels for work all the time overseas. Planes and traveling can easily transfer this stuff. It only takes one person to be infected to travel somewhere, and now you have a cluster here, you have a cluster here, you have a cluster here. It's super, super fast. We've all seen the movies. You know how fast this stuff can work, okay? But it's also one of those things that there's red flags. You can see it coming. We saw COVID coming before, internationally exploded all over the TV, all over the world, right? Spring, that was late. We were tracking that stuff during the holidays, right? Before the first year, we're like, what's going on? What is this thing that's happening in China, right? So it's a big, big deal to pay attention to these signs and watch this stuff at the beginning. If this goes nowhere, cool, great. If anything, you got yourself some preps. You got ready for this type of thing because, baby, Just because this one might not hit doesn't mean another one's going to hit. A pandemic is coming in our future, probably several, and you want to be ready because God forbid multiple stuff happens at once. You're not going to be able to get anything. You already know how it was with just a little baby. The last pandemic was a baby pandemic. I hope you guys know that. That was not even a real thing in regards to the scope of what a true pandemic, a deadly pandemic, Black Plague, plagues, like the stuff that our people went through back in the day. COVID was nothing, was a breeze in the park. It was a test to see how we first of all, how we would react. It was a test to just see how fast stuff could spread. I mean, there's lots of stuff to be learned from COVID. So I hope that you did that as well and not just so blinded to just close your eyes and be like, well, it is what it is, whatever, right? Same thing. You're here in Marburg, you're like, whatever. When it gets here, I'll deal with it. When it hits the United States, then I'll deal with it. Because this is just in one ear and out the other. It's not that big of a deal. And I'm saying, I hope you're right. God willing, I hope you're right that they're able to get it under control over there, that nothing gets out of the country. I hope you're right, okay? Because God help us. God help us if anything comes our way, okay? So you all be well. Be kind, do everything in love, and continue to do the things, get things, buy the things, organize, inventory, and I will see you guys next time on the next video. Take care.